Okay, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to wait a few seconds whilst the attendees spool in. It takes about 20 seconds for that to happen. So I will pause for a few seconds whilst that is occurring. Well, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening if you're following this in Asia. My name is Tom Jenkins. I'm chairing this meeting. We are doing this as part of many discussions that we're going to be having leading up to the new marketplace that ETOA is running, along with our partners ETC and City Destinations Alliance. It's going to be a marketplace that takes place on the 12th of June. And it really is a format, unlike most ETOA formats, where people with shoulder and off-peak product can sit behind tables and talk to buyers and tour operators and indeed agents who will be circulating around the room. That takes place in the 12th of June at the O2 Intercontinental in London. So be aware of that event and have it in your diary. Okay, that's the end of that screen. It's really my absolute delight to welcome my co-panelists here. I have Leslie Vella from the Malta Tourism Authority. I have Marco Sabara from Globus. I have Alex Herman from Switzerland Tourism. And I also have Jed Brown, very much the doyen of this subject, from Low Season Traveller. And I'm going to actually ask everyone to introduce themselves a bit more fully than I have just done. So can I just start with Leslie? Leslie, please introduce yourself.
Good morning from Malta. My name is Leslie Vella. I'm Deputy CEO at the Malta Tourism Authority. I've known Tom and ETOA for a very long time, particularly through my work with the European Travel Commission. And it's great to be with you this morning.
Excellent. Marco.
Good morning, everybody. Marco Sorbara, Chief Operating Officer from Globus Family of Brands. I've been joining the company almost 30 years ago, so I'm very pleased to be here with you together.
And Alex?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Tom. So my name is Alex Herman. I'm the head of Western Europe for Switzerland Tourism, based in London, overseeing most of the European markets for Switzerland. Previously, I used to work for Switzerland Tourism in New York, overseeing the Americas, part of the extended management board, and thrilled to be here to talk about this really very, very interesting and exciting topic. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jed?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jed Brown. I am the founder and CEO of an organization called Low Season Traveller. And I've been doing that for the past 7 years because I have concerns about the low seasons and also the opportunities that the low seasons bring. And I'm also the founder of the Tourism Seasonality Summit, which is an annual event held in conjunction with Roots.
Okay. Jed, I mean, you have your own event, don't you, in Rimini? Is this where it's going to be taking place?
Yeah, it's in Rimini this year. It's alongside Roots Europe. And the reason that we do that is because we get all of the airlines there. The airlines have to be part of the conversation when we're talking about seasonality. So, our event is really for sort of policy and strategy sort of level across the sector. We've spoken about this before, Tom. The event that you've got, I just absolutely applaud. I think it's absolutely fantastic because this is where the transactions actually happen in order to make the sort of the shoulder and the off season start to work for your event. So I think it's great now that we have 2 events on the travel industry calendar that are focused on this issue.
Okay. This is not supposed to be a mutual supportive exercise.
No, but it's true. But it's true. It's so important. It's one of the single biggest issues that we have in our industry, because the fact of the matter is, tourism is set to double in the next 15 years. That's the reality. When you look at the forward-looking the books, purchase books on Airbus and Boeing's reports, they're all planning for a double of the airline capacity in the next 15 years. So if we think we've got packed peak seasons right now, it's a cakewalk compared to what's coming down the line. So we have to move into the low and, so-called off seasons. We have to.
Well, the imperative that you're stressing, I don't question. Do you think the consumers are going to respond to that? I mean,
Yeah, I think they will, Tom, and I think we're already seeing signs of that, and that's just because as the world becomes more crowded and the destinations become more crowded in the peaks, more people become dissatisfied with what the product is because it's so crowded. So we're seeing, a lot of the data from the data guys like Data Appeal and Mabrian. They're showing data which has a direct correlation between how busy a destination gets and the sentiment of the travelers in that destination. So basically, the sentiment drops when you get to peak season, and it peaks the sentiment and how people feel about the experience during the low season when there are fewer people there. So I think people are already starting to see that, and they're already starting to make that shift. And those low season experiences today, they're still kind of rare, and they're exciting. And look, I'm the biggest advocate of the low seasons. I don't like crowds. I don't like stress. I like it when it's calm and more chilled. And my main purpose for travel is the culture, the heritage, connecting with the locals, and it's the best time to experience that. So,
what's not to like? I don't know. Alex, I know that low season travel, shoulder and off peak season is something that is one of the priorities for Switzerland tourism, which is why we're so thrilled to have you here, I think. I mean, is this a really important driver behind what you're hoping to achieve?
Very much so. So about 3 or 4 years ago, just after COVID, we completely redefined our strategy, and we came up with this whole concept called Travel Better, which has several pillars, and one of them is obviously the seasonality. We are in the very fortunate situation that Switzerland is basically a year-round destination. So for us, low season in different places is during different times. And also, if you look at the kind of guests that we have in Switzerland, obviously for different kinds of guests, low season can be a different kind of time during the year. So what we did basically is we work very closely with the hospitality industry, and we literally looked at every single region and destination in Switzerland and looked at capacity and where we are with regards to occupancy in the hospitality industry mostly. We realized that if you look at the entire year in Switzerland, there's still, and if you obviously would assume that all the hotels are open 12 months in the year, we still have a capacity of over 50% throughout Switzerland. So our focus is not to deal with the other 49% where it's already full or very well, the occupancy is quite high, but to very much focus on these other 51%. And because we broke that down into the different regions and cities, we actually have these conversations with our partners. We're the Swiss National Tourist Office, but we're heavily reliant on our Swiss partners, the destinations, the regions, the hospitality industry, and other partners. And so we basically can address with every single region, with the cities, with the mountains, with the south of Switzerland, the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, for example, and focus on the months of the year where they need most support.
That's interesting. I mean, Leslie, I mean, is this echoed in Malta? I mean, I mean, the intriguing thing about Switzerland is that traditionally it was a summer destination. I'm looking back over 100 years ago, I have to say. Not that my memory goes back that far, but conventionally, Switzerland was somewhere where you went to enjoy the scenery in the summer rather than slide down things in the winter. And then things have changed, obviously, since then, largely. And Leslie, is this something, are you looking at a shift in Malta as well? Because you're traditionally a summer destination.
Yes, traditionally, obviously, we were a Mediterranean summer destination, peaking in the June to September period. But over the past 15 years or so, we have made huge efforts on understanding the phenomenon of seasonality and addressing it. And if I may use an analogy from the animal world, you have animals who remain active all year round by adapting to the seasons, by having winter fare for the winter and summer gear for the summer. You have other animals who operate in peak season only and then decide to hibernate in the colder or less productive months. And I think it's the same for a destination. It's the same for a destination in that tackling seasonality is not a question of trying to address winter with your summer clothes, because that leads to misery, low occupancies, closed down facilities, low rates, So the way we have adapted to this is to look at Malta in two different ways during the year. We are an island with a city during the summer, so the coastal dimension comes to the fore in the peak, in our case in the Mediterranean, whereas in the off-peak months, we are a city on an island. So we become an urban destination with short breaks, with history and culture, active holidays, etc. And this is how we have addressed it. And we have been very successful because in the past 4 years or so, we have seen winter, the period November to March, grow at roughly 3 times the rate of the peak summer, to the point that today our off-peak months are very active. The operators are fetching very high rates. Nothing closes down, and the destination remains alive year-round. So you are maximizing a lot from your tourism. And linked to this is airline connectivity. In a destination which is 100% dependent on airline connectivity, it takes a lot of work with the airlines to convince them to move from a peak operation only to a year-round operation, something that we have been quite successful in.
Goodness. Now, I mean, Marco, you're very much at the sharp end. Everyone here is saying how nice it is, or how nice it would be for people to come in off season and shoulder and off peak. You're the person actually charged with selling this, and I know that Globus has been exploring lower season product. How well has that gone? Is it working?
Let's say that we started back almost 10 years ago to create a dedicated product line for the shoulder seasons, because we strongly believe that that was the way we should have considered for the future, exactly for the reasons that were mentioned before, the overcrowd, etc., etc. But we tried many ways before that period, so 15, 20 years ago, with different products. But at the end, the conclusion was you have to have a price. Winter, that's the entry reason why somebody should look at traveling during winter. Then we tried, we experienced that. Obviously, it's not only price, but if you don't have the price or a deal, there is no way that somebody is looking at. This is the scenario we faced 10 years back. Then we had the COVID, so the situations have changed a lot, but in the meantime, people have experienced, people are more aware that shoulder period is much better from an experience perspective. No crowd, and as we said before, and considering the people we have on board, our coaches, averaging 55, 60, 65, that's the best thing that they can experience. So as Jed said before, I mean, you really get pleasure out of something when you can stroll around with no crowd, etc., etc. It's not said that in shoulder season you don't have the crowd, you don't have the summer crowd. So it's a different scenario. So I must say that at the beginning, we also had a lot of suppliers supporting us, in particular hoteliers, motor coach companies, tour directors with, let's try and go out with a price that can be very attractive. And because our main distribution channel at that time was travel agencies, travel agents were not inclined to sell winter simply because of money, because they were not getting money out of the commission, which was the same in principle, but on a much lower price. So the more people had the experience coming into Europe in the shoulder season and saw all the positive reasons to come, travel agents were basically forced to sell. So it's a nice cycle where basically now I think that there is awareness of the advantages, but still price remain the key factor, because after COVID, and then I close, after COVID, of course, we tried to increase margins to recover some of the losses we had during that period. And the result was a disaster. So we saw very clearly that customers that are willing to travel in winter are looking for a deal, are looking for a very affordable price, and you have to provide that. So what we are doing now is discounting. So we kept the pricing level that was higher, with higher margins, but we are now in a discounted market scenario. And this is working back. So it's coming back a lot.
Goodness. So what you're really saying is that consumers now almost expect not flexible pricing, but pricing that responds to changing market demands. They're totally used to seeing this now on airlines. They expect to see that on the airline.
Yes.
They expect to see that in various other areas. And they're now saying, look, we're not traveling high season. What's the deal? And this is where they're coming from. And we will get on to that, the consequences of that I have towards the end, because I've got some very pertinent questions which have been posed to us by people who registered earlier. I would encourage everybody who's on this webinar to use the Q&A button. It helps, well, frankly, it helps me enormously. If other people are providing questions, it takes a huge weight off my shoulders. But it also means that we're getting a dialogue going here, which is great. So if you've got a question, dear member of the audience, please stick in there. I mean,
Tom, can I ask Marco a quick question?
Yeah, by all means, Alex. Yeah.
Marco, do you see a difference, because you have different in the family of brands, you have different price points, obviously the different brands. Do you see a difference in the different brands with regard to the low season and the expectation of the guests with regards to discounting and low prices, etc.?
Yes and no, in the sense that our river cruise program is focusing basically on the Christmas markets, and that clientele has a good level of spending. So they are always very keen to come, despite the very high prices. If I'm looking at Globus, as said before, is the brand where we focused in terms of winter program, because we wanted to provide a high level of quality hotels, like 4-star hotels, but at a Cosmos price level. So Cosmos in general was in the past, Cosmos is the 3-star brand level, was the stronger brand of our family in winter, but during the years still, because the price was not good enough, there was a slow decline. That's why we decided to leverage the Globus brand, but make it very appealing and even more convenient that per diem price of Cosmos level. So yes, there is a differentiation, and we were very careful in identify the strategy.
Okay, thank you. I think just a general point. I think that what makes this so interesting is that the tradition is for people to travel in summer, and this has just become a habit almost. And it's almost a habit, certainly for the North American market, which still dominates the demand pattern of ETOA. notwithstanding the Asian markets. But most of these people are coming to Europe to see the cultural attractions of Europe. This is the thing that draws them. And the cultural attractions of Europe are really very different in winter than they are in summer. And sorry, they're not very different in winter from where they are in summer. If you want to go and see the crown jewels in London or the contents of the Louvre, or you wish to go to Florence, the winter experience is the same as the summer experience. And the things that you're going to look at don't change. Just the context of it, as you pointed out, is slightly preferable. So we've got huge scope for almost promotion on that level. I think more importantly is there anything that we need to do to adapt to the low season visitor? And I'm just going to throw this at Jed very quickly. I mean, Jed, is it something you think the destinations have to structurally change what they're offering in order to cater to this market?
I think they have to understand the reason for travel. That's what they have to key into. So there's two elements here. There's the products that you've got in your destination, and then there's what is the reason for people traveling. And as you say, if the reason for traveling to European cities is cultural heritage, then great news. You can enjoy all of that cultural heritage all year round. And you can enjoy it just as much in January or February. You'll still see the Colosseum, St. Peter's Square, and everything else. But you just might need to bring a jacket. But you still get to explore the richness of the cultural heritage. So if their main purpose is cultural heritage, then yes, that's absolutely great. But I think you have to look at the other reasons for travel. And an example that I've used a few times recently, but I was giving a keynote on low season travel in Croatia last year, and a lady piped up afterwards, and this is just a perfect example. And she said, "Mr. Brown, everybody comes here for the sun and the beaches, though. So what can we do?" And I said, "Well, look, be honest with me. How have you positioned Split for the past 20 years in all of your marketing, with all of your relationships?" And she kind of had a wry smile and she said, "Sun and beaches." And I said, "And I'm not being smart. You got what you asked for and you did it really successfully, and congratulations on that. Now for the off seasons or the low seasons, you need to focus on a different story that you need to tell." And Split is very fortunate, because I'm sure many of you realize that behind those beaches, they have some of the most incredible Roman architecture outside of Rome. I mean, it's really breathtaking. It's on another level. Tell that story for the low seasons, because then you'll get people who are wishing to travel for that story. They're not wishing to travel for sun and beaches. If you keep banging the sun and beaches drum, then you're not going to be successful. So I think a lot of it's about keying into the reasons for travel.
And do you agree, Alex? I mean, are you having to change the pitch to Switzerland at all, or is this there isn't the same old with Switzerland? And one thing I will never accuse Switzerland of doing is promoting beach tourism. But keep going. Sorry.
Well, actually, there's amazing swimming in Switzerland, in the lakes and rivers, and there are beaches, and the water is so clean you can swim with your mouth open. But back to your question, what we're trying, and what Chet just said very much resonates with me. It's all about why are people traveling. What we've tried to do mostly in the ski market, we try to convince people that come to Switzerland for skiing, because as you said, Tom, we started off as a summer destination. Now, still, if I go out the street and ask 100 people what comes to mind if you hear Switzerland, then it's snow and skiing, etc. And you can do that in the US, you can do that here, you can do that in London, you can do it in other places. So to change the perception that actually the Alps can be the perfect summer destination as well, where yes, you don't get the Mediterranean beach, but you get so many other things. And the same reasons why you travel in the winter, when you want to have a family experience and ski together, you can have that in the summer as well, and just do other things in the mountains. But it's absolutely beautiful. It's not as hot. It's not crowded. The rates are lower, and it's definitely much less busy in the resorts. But things are still open, and that gets me to the other point, because yes, we do the marketing here. We put Roger Federer in our last few clips, video clips that we did with him. We put Roger Federer in the autumn landscape, etc. And that's very, very important that we do that. But we also have to make sure that the experience then of the guests is is good. So things need to be open. Things need to be, the resorts need to have some life. The restaurants and obviously the hotels, but especially the mountain operations, everything has to be open and working, and that is has to go in parallel with the marketing. It's like a chicken and egg situation a little bit. Do you talk about it first and then you try to get things open, or the other way around? And we realized that it really has to move forward in the same speed. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So this has been a major learning for us over the last years.
And Leslie, is this what's been happening with you? I mean, you're mid-process on this, I know.
Yes, obviously, getting out of the old paradigm is never easy, because for an island Mediterranean destination, you're for a very long time stuck to the concept that you're a beach destination, you're a summer destination, pretty little to do outside that. But over the years, we have learned to capitalize on all the different facets of the destination. The focus on the coast of the summer moves more inland and more into the towns and cities during the off-peak. The landscape, for instance, which is brown and dead during the summer months, comes back to life from October. Already the countryside is filling up with flowers. We have a very early spring at the start of winter. So the landscape becomes very attractive to people who come for walking, who come for active holidays, biking, rock climbing, the Malta Marathon. Apart from that, the attractions, which as Jed referred to, a lot of the attractions are visitable year-round. The way you experience them changes. Whereas in the summer, the outdoor ones become a rush to go into the shade to avoid the hot sun. During the off-peak, you can enjoy them in a calmer fashion, both because the weather is more amenable. We don't really have a tough winter. Average January temperature is plus 15, 16, and the best sunshine record in Europe. But also there's less crowds. And one comment I would like to add is that in spite of growing the number of visitors in the low season, an element of seasonality will always remain, because people, at least the people from the markets we attract, will still continue to be biased towards preferring a longer summer holiday. So what we tap into during the off-peak months is second and third holidays, which tend to be shorter in duration. So you have bigger numbers for shorter stays. The average length of stay in the summer is 6 nights. The average length of stay in the off-peak months is about 3.5 nights. Mm-hmm. So you can handle more volume because it has a less overnight pressure during the off-peak, so that although the numbers are good for the airlines, the numbers are good for the hotels and for the attractions, you can have a better throughput through shorter length of stay. And the realization that the gap, although you narrow it, will always continue to be there. I mentioned our dependence on aviation. Airlines need to service their aircraft. They will do it during the low season. So you can never aspire to have a flat schedule from January to December. The important thing is to remain connected. The important thing is to remain in people's minds for different reasons during all months of the year.
I mean, Marco, do you find that you need to, I mean, I suppose the first question is, have you got any products that are actually year-round? I mean, do you do comprehensive tours of Europe that you literally run January through December, or that would be the first question. Secondly, do you find you have to adapt your products to the winter timetable, or the winter to what's available in winter?
To the second question, the program is, we should consider that the winter programs is usually, because of the price, is ideal for first-timers. And these first-timers, once they discover the product, they come back often, 2, 3, 4 times. So the program is not different from summer, except for the fact that it may be slightly adjusted because of the daylight. So that is the only reason why. The first question was referring if we go over the year round.
Do you have a year-round program?
We have a very little program because in the past we experienced that the experience overall is not that great. So it's just either before Christmas or afterwards. And then January and February are always weaker because it's after the holidays, Christmas holidays, and people tend to stay home. So for us, shoulder season means that you have the November and December bookings together with the mid-February, end of March. Those are the strongest booking. The strongest bookings, yes. So
the strongest booking period. I think it's very intriguing what we're talking when we're talking about pricing. I think I think maybe we ought to be looking at it less in terms of discounts, more in terms of avoiding premium. But Jed, I mean, you may have an angle on this.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was actually addressing while you were speaking there, one of the comments that had been put on this. I feel quite strongly that I think, look, historically we did use discounting for the low seasons, and that was what drove the low seasons, to be fair, and it was very successful. I think we need to sort of shift the conversation away from discounting now, and that's not to say shift away from the reduced prices, but I think it's shifting that slight dynamic. You know, if I can book, if you look at the flight side of things, and that was referred to before, if I can book a flight to New York in September for £500, but if I'm looking to go over the Christmas period and they're charging me £1,200, I don't think that the September price is a discount. No, that's the base price. I'm paying a premium if I want to travel when everyone else travels. And that's the way in which I think that we need to adapt our pricing strategy moving forward, is make it more clear that you want to travel when everybody else travels, you're paying a premium. If you want to travel during the low season, you don't have to pay the premium. It's not a discount, because I think when we start to use the terms like discounting, it kind of rubbishes the product. And the irony is the products, as you said it, Tom, and I think a few of the guests have said it, it's a better product in the low season. Low crowds, more local engagement, all of this kind of great stuff. We shouldn't kind of trash that by saying, look, come, it's cheap, we're giving you a discount off. No. I don't think we should talk as much about the discounting side.
If I can add, Jed, I mean, I perfectly agree in principle, but I don't think that the markets are ready for that yet. So it's like you took the example of Split, that they have been, investing on creating this awareness of the destination for summer, etc., etc. It took maybe 20 years to reach what they have. So I think that what you said is correct, but it will take a little bit of time, because we have tried to increase prices because we know that there is added value by coming in the low season. But our discovery is that the market is not ready yet for that. So you cannot build up the market. The market is telling you what they want. Of course, you need the tourist boards that also support the change, the cultural change, that there is added value in coming during the winter period. So we are still, I think, in the middle of a change, but we are not still there.
I agree with you on that, Marco. I think my point is, I recognize that we still need the lower prices to drive, and I think that was what you were saying was your experience. I think it's the language that I'm sort of saying, because you're right, it is going to be an evolution to get those prices higher and higher, and that will happen, like you say, longer term. I think it's all the language of discounts. I think the word discount shouldn't be used. I think we should be focusing more on the value. I think keep the prices as they are in order to stimulate the demand, but I don't think referring to it as a discount necessarily is helping us. I think we should start talking about the premium that they pay when it comes to the sort of the peak season stuff. So it's really clear, you are paying extra if you want to travel when everyone else travels, and I think maybe that might go some way to sort of helping.
I wonder. I think this is actually potentially another discussion. We're throwing up all kinds of areas of new ideas. I don't disagree with anything that's been said so far, and I think Marco would probably agree with me that I think we all would love it if the market wasn't quite so price sensitive. We've many years ago when I was competing with Marco, the tour operator, the basic mantra is that people would switch from one product to another for about $2 in price on $1,000 tour. So you're dealing with a 0.2% price sensitivity if there's a perceived equivalence in value. And this price sensitivity becomes even more acute the further east you go. So at the moment, it's not going away. Now, I also buy wholeheartedly the fact that we are here to sell experiences, particularly if we're tour operators are offering high added value product. It's not just a series of components. It's an all-round experience that we need to push forward. But the other side of the coin is, and Jane, this is not where we disagree, but I have similar conversations where people are saying, why am I being overcharged in the school holidays? Why can't I pay the rate that I get in May? Why do I have to pay a higher rate in August? And I'm saying, well, the rate in May is because you're actually you're not paying a premium in August, just slightly cheaper in May because the demand isn't there, sunshine. And so we've got price curving in the price curving explanations where we're saying the high rate is the normal rate, and the other rate is just the rate that we're able to pay because you're paying. Everyone's prepared to pay so much in August.
Sorry, Tom. That's where I disagree with you, though. For me, the normal rate is the low season rate. It's a slight reframing of that. It's just, hey, you want to travel when everyone else travels? Yeah, like nobody bats an eyelid. If you want to book a flight over Christmas and New Year, no one bats an eyelid. They know they're paying a premium. It's really clear. And no one's thinking, Jesus, they're ripping me off. It's like, yeah, of course, you want to fly over Christmas and New Year? Yeah, you're going to pay double. You want to go on summer holidays to Malta? Yeah, you're going to pay double what you pay in the low season.
I don't think we're actually that far apart. I think the crucial point is, and this is what everyone's focusing on, is that what we have to concentrate on is the extra benefits you get from traveling at that time of the year. And frankly, the price will look after itself. We're dealing with highly perishable product, and suppliers have to make a choice as to how they choose to distribute that product and the price that they think they're going to succeed in doing so. Now, whilst we've been talking, we've got a flood of various comments flying in on the chat. Many of this actually broadly supporting Jed in his arguments, and indeed Leslie as well, saying, we are wholly should be concentrating on the value that we're adding rather than the price that we're adding. I'm just intrigued, Alex. I stupidly, having myself swum several times in the lakes in Switzerland, not quite as a sort of basking shark as you're maintaining. I shouldn't have slipped into a cheap characterization, so I'm not going to do so again. But Switzerland is never famous for being a cheap destination, I think we can say, and yet you're maximizing your low season position. Is this Is this something that you're finding there's a real demand for in the market? That people are going, hey, this is my opportunity to go to Switzerland. This is my opportunity to go to see Basel, the great museums you have there, Zurich, what have you.
2 points about this. Number one, yes, absolutely. Because we have the situation that we have off season in different parts of the country at different times, the cities, the mountains, the south, etc. And also these places that are somewhere in between, like Lucerne or Interlaken, etc. To promote these places to a different group of people who are traveling during different parts of the time. So with the summer in the Alps, for example, we try very much to just change people's perception. And yes, you have to travel during the summer school holiday. But maybe the Mediterranean holiday should be in October or should be in Easter or in May when you have a half-term holiday here in the UK, and not in the summer. In the summer, it might be much nicer in the Alps actually, and you get around this whole premium that you have to pay during the high season. So we very much try to focus on the respective season, and for me, it's very closely related. This whole topic about off-season, etc., in the case of Switzerland, focusing on parts of the country and destinations that are just not as popular yet or are not as popular in certain markets. So this is something for us, this goes hand in hand. That we promote the Appenzell region, for example, in the summer, which is a lovely place to hike and spend the summer holiday. But it's beyond, Switzerland and Germany. Maybe this is not a very well-known region at all. So to move people away from not move people away, but to have people to also visit other parts of the country and do the Glacier Express. But then, there's another 9 beautiful scenic trains in Switzerland that are as beautiful and should be visited as well. But the second aspect I wanted to quickly bring in here as a National Tourism Board, and Leslie maybe has a similar topic, we have to do this. We have to focus on low season. We have to focus on lesser known destinations, because we need the local population on our side. We need the local population to see the value of tourism. We need the local population to support us, basically. And this is an aspect that we haven't mentioned yet. So there's absolutely no other way than to move in this direction and in very close collaboration with the resorts, with the destinations, to make sure the infrastructure is there, the places are open, and then to jointly promote these times to just show the value of tourism as a year-round benefit, but also to move away from this discussion about over tourism, which luckily in Switzerland we're blessed. This is very limited to very few places, a very short time of the year. Thanks to what you mentioned, Tom, among other things, the fact that we're not a cheap destination obviously helps us in that respect. We also don't have any ocean cruising in Switzerland. That also helps us with that, and the people that Marco brings on the 220 people on that Marco brings to Switzerland on the river cruise. We can definitely handle them very well. Yes, a huge topic related very much for me, the off-season and the lesser known or hidden gem destination discussion. And secondly, the local population. I think this has to be a very important part of this discussion with regards to low season and shoulder season.
And Leslie, is this something that you're looking at too?
Yes, I see a lot of parallels with what Alex has been saying. Just to go back for a second on the rates thing, rates are obviously very important, a very important consideration when talking about extending the season. In the past, our defeatist attitude used to be try to make enough money in the short summer peak to allow you to lose enough of it to survive the winter. So it was like, looking at the winter as something which has a net deficit effect, and your interest is to save, to make enough in the peak to remain open during the rest of the year. Today, our attitude is different. Today, our attitude, and I link it to the attraction of critical masses of volumes, is that businesses remain open year round and in the low season because they are also making money then. And the summer, where demand is stronger, rates peak even higher. Even within a small territory like Malta, a very small island of 300 square kilometers, maximum length 30 kilometers by 15. We notice variations on different parts of the island. So the demand for the coastal areas is obviously biased towards the summer. Valletta, the capital, which has seen a lot of investment in hotel accommodation in the past 10 years or so, has its slow season in terms of hotel demand in July, August, September, because it is more attractive to go for a city break outside the heat, and people will seek the coast rather than the city in the peak season. So one has to have a very thorough understanding of your product and your offers, how it differs during different times of the year, and how to position the destination during the different types of the year. Even that changes. In peak summer, we are competing with the Balearics, we are competing with Greece, we are competing with Italy, with the Canaries, with North Africa, with Turkey. In the off-peak season, we are competing with cities like Prague and Vienna as a city product for short breaks, offering a cultural experience. So even the positioning changes. You cannot have a one size fits all, and that is how you adapt to the different requirements. One last thing, again, one very important consideration for a destination which is 100% dependent on air is planning with the airlines on what type of schedules they offer. We have moved away completely from services which only offer a once-a-week service. Today, people want flexibility. As a minimum, we require, even in winter, we require 2, ideally 3 as a minimum. We'd rather that they disappear from the schedule for 6 weeks in January, February, if they want to use the aircraft for the skiing season or they want to service them, rather than put pressure on them to operate a whole winter and lose money for 6 weeks and destroy the financials of a whole season. So you need to be very hands-on week by week. What you want to sell, who you want to sell it to, at what price, and how you are going to get them here. Thank you.
Gosh. I've got a question here that was posed before the start of the webinar, and I was very grateful. It's from Marco Derivo, one of the many Marcos that we have on the advisory council, from Mickey Travel, and he was just he's raising many of the issues that we've raised already, but he was wanting specifically to know that he's saying that the off-season demand is currently limited by the behavior of long-haul consumers who are deterred from visiting Europe by dark and cold weather. He's talking specifically about the long-haul Asian markets here. How can we effectively market Europe's unique off-season appeal to generate demand rather than relying solely on price reductions? This is the point which has already been raised. What are the panelists' views on the key attractions for visiting Europe during the shoulder and off-peak season? This has been largely answered by Leslie and to a certain extent Alex, who is saying that you've got to focus ultimately on what makes you different, I suppose. And you're saying, you know, these are the specific cultural things. I wonder, Marco, if you've got any angle on this on a more European level or pan-European level.
So what you're asking is, just to reformulate the question, is if the cultural aspect is still the element, or if it's, can you reformulate? Sorry, Jeff, Tom.
I think you're right. I think what he's saying is look, the people are really, there are going to be some areas in Europe where you've got and you've already mentioned it, you've got a real barrier for the fact that it's effectively dark. I mean, you're not going to do northern
Yes, but
Scandinavia
I
too
mean,
much.
there are a lot of positive things you can leverage. No, you have the negative side in summer of the heat, for instance, whilst in winter is not the case, and this is something you should be leveraging a lot. Maybe the perception of Switzerland that is cold, but despite the prices and etc., is one of the strongest destination for us. Why? Because they are marketing correctly, I believe, and because it's still a very, very safe perceived destination, and the added value is definitely there. So even if it's winter, even if it's more expensive, as Jed was saying, there is the added value, and there is demand. The fact that there is demand, it allows us to enlarge our product portfolio and include the new cities that we would not usually include. Like you were mentioning, we include the St. Gallen, for instance, which is not normally in the circuits. So there are a lot of elements that we are leveraging depending on the destination and what we know that is a problem in summer. So this is where we try to and to play, of course, with the prices whenever we can. What we need more as tour operators is to work together with the tourist boards, because the tourist boards quite often they are like isolated. They have the idea of supporting, but at the end it's very difficult to work together in a certain way, in a way that I consider really productive for both sides. Because we have been dealing, for instance, with Switzerland Tourism before, doing something more in winter, but one way or the other, we are not aligned. And this is a pity, because it could leverage really much more the interest for the destination. And of course, the dark that I mentioned before. So there are a lot of elements that are taken into consideration and marketed accordingly.
And Chad, do you feel that people should be doing more in this? So obviously, you feel that people should be doing more in this area. But is there anything specific they should be focusing on to promote? Is there a one size fits all marketing position you've got for Europe? I mean, Leslie and Alex quite reasonably have come up with very specific answers that pertain directly to what they've got in Switzerland and Malta. But do you think Europe has got any angles it should be using?
I don't think there's a one size fits all. But I do agree with what Marco, I think, was insinuating. Look, on this panel we've got two, in my opinion, two of the strongest tourist boards on this area, and the work that they do on this is really impressive. However, generally, I do feel that the tourist boards are lacking in this. I think there's more that they need to do, and they need to grapple with it more. And I think one of the challenges is that frequently we put our own destinations down. We start to think, look, I'm here in Manchester, and I would say to you, why would anyone want to come here in the winter? Yet tourists do, because one of the mistakes that we make very often is we're comparing our winter with winter in Malta, which weather-wise is incomparable. Whereas what you need to do is compare your winter with the winter where the visitor is coming from, and it's just a different place. But when you're looking at many parts of Europe in the winter, is the weather, and certainly in Northern Europe, is it that different in the summer? If you go to Ireland in the summer, you easily could get a week of rain. If you go to Ireland in the winter, you might actually not get any rain. You don't travel you're not traveling for the weather. So I think it's about trying to identify, again, it comes down to what's their main purpose for travel. And it's a similar thing. I think Switzerland has done a great job. When you talk about the value, people, Alex, you were saying quite rightly, when you think of Switzerland, maybe one of the first things you think of is skiing. And I think historically, people used to think one of the first things was that it's expensive. And it's not expensive. It's exceptional value for money. But my God, do you get value for money? Because, yeah, you pay a little bit more, but everything works perfectly in Switzerland. It just works. That, for me, is exceptional value for money. I don't mind paying a little bit more if it works. I do object to paying a bit more if it doesn't work. But it's that reframing. And I think that's the general conversation that the tourism boards in particular need to do, is they need to start reframing a little bit better than they have been doing.
Okay, well, look, we're drawing to the end of our allotted time here, and we've had a very vigorous conversation. I think I just might ask each panelist if they've got almost one sentence, I think, on how they would phrase the appeal of off-peak, low-season tourism for them. So, Alex, over to you. Can you got any summary on this?
Sorry, I just saw one of the people posting something in our chat here. Someone just returned from a week, a low season ski week in Switzerland, actually in this particular week here. And apparently had a very nice time. Thank you, Angela, for that comment. And that actually gets me to an important point that on one hand summarizes everything. On the other hand, I think is an aspect that we haven't mentioned yet. In collaborating closely with tour operators and tourism boards, we can maybe come up with creative ways to find these pockets. Like right now, for example, this week is a perfect week to go skiing in the Alps, for example, because most of people in Switzerland are still in school, people are still at work, etc. But I know here in the UK, many schools are out. So this is a low season ski week. The conditions are fantastic. The prices are not on the holiday level yet. So they're supposed to be. So it's a great time. And if you go through the year, there's like the second half of August, for example, is another time, which traditionally people would think, oh, this is high season. But in the Alps, this is actually, people are back at school. Many people are back at work because second half of August is not traditionally a holiday time for the Swiss. So if you're in the US or the UK, this is prime time where you're off. So I think if you're a bit creative here and in close collaboration between tourism boards and operators, we can come up with windows of opportunity here where we can really make a difference and make an impact.
Thank you. Leslie.
Okay. On the basis of what we've been discussing, my sort of few points of conclusion is that I think it takes a lot of self-belief at destination end to project oneself outside the safety zone in which we have been conditioned to operate. One needs to compartmentalize a lot in spite of the size of the destination. You have to segment it into little components which have the potential to attract demand and project them to the right crowd. So you need to know your product and you need to know what the demand is looking for and where it is. And it's basically selling the low season, in my opinion, literally involves doing it week by week. You need to compartmentalize your offer because in terms of events, in terms of opportunities, in terms of sectors of demand, it is the opposite of homogeneous. It is a very heterogeneous offer. And the more components you identify and sectors of demand out there that would be interested in experiencing it, the more successful you can become.
Thank you so much, Jed. I know we're running out of time, but if you've got a final word.
Yeah, just briefly, I think for everybody to remember as well that there is a sustainability angle on all of this, which is a really important one. Because for every and Alex alluded to this at the beginning, we haven't really touched on this on carrying capacity studies and such like. But Alex alluded to it quite right. Most of Europe can accommodate easily twice the number of visitors if they actually promote their low seasons in the right way. And it's a more sustainable thing to do because then you're filling hotels and infrastructure which already exists. It doesn't require any capex or anything else like that. You're using stuff which is already there. It's a form of recycling by using the properties and everything in the low season. And as well, just one final point is I've condensed a lot of my learnings over the past 7 years into a complementary seasonality blueprint. I've got to do my plug here, Tom. If anybody would like a copy, I will. I'll share it with Tom the link to sort of register for it, and you're more than welcome to have a copy of that. It's complimentary.
Okay, that's fine. Marco.
I think that the shoulder season is where we will end up in the future. It's to me, to speed up the process. It becomes really key that as tour operators we work with tourist boards, as we said. I think that the message of the value will come with automatically in a few years, not necessarily now. That is where we will end up anyhow, because there is this added value. So and the trend is growing in winter. So, and also because, as you said, sustainability is very easy to be implemented in that respect. So, yeah.
Thank you, Marco. The one thing I might mention is that, speaking on behalf of all the tour operators, and is what I'm in theory charged to do, we're often asked really two things by destinations. One is, please sell the places that no one's going to. And the second one is, please sell at times when other people aren't going, the least crowded times. Of these two requests, both of them are really important ways of adding value for a destination. I don't question that. But of these two requests, selling somewhere that people want to go, but at a different time of year, is much easier to fulfill than trying to send someone somewhere where they don't want to go. That's a much more difficult task. So this, to a certain extent, is not a home run, but of all the things that were being asked, this is a fairly straightforward one, and I think it's one that we have to solve. And this is the beginning of, I hope, what is going to be quite extensive dialogue over the next 6 months as we move towards both our event in June and Jed's event in Rimini, about which you will be hearing along with his blueprint, which I will be circulating. Leaves me just to say thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. I appreciate that you're very busy, and I very much appreciate you've given up the time for this. And thank you, audience, for being here. We've had almost record numbers dialing in for this. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. I will leave it at that. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you.